Somebody's getting it, somebody's getting my love. Somebody's getting it, somebody. Somebody done got it. Somebody done got it. Somebody done got it.
Hi, I'm Pouyan Shirzadi,
And I'm Kilambi.
and you're listening to the Court Podcast. Today on the Court Podcast, we're discussing the scrimmages that happened in the bubble. So without no further ado, let's get into them. So first up, we're going to have our first show update, or slash show on our podcast, and it's going to be called Raptors Update. So we'll be updating on what's been happening with the Raptors lately, our hometown team. So, Kiran, you start off with the win against the Rockets. Tell us what you thought about the game.
So our long-awaited return to action had the Raptors beat Houston by 11 points, and honestly, I thought it was a very well-rounded game. I mean, holding Houston to 83 is a big plus, and we did that. So defensively, I think the team played really well, and on the other side, Ibaka and Siakam played really well, especially Ibaka, who led the team in scoring. Lowry was solid. Terrence Davis was solid too. An all-around great performance from the guys. Norm Powell was really good also, but I'm happy that I'm most happy about how we played defensively because Houston has as much offensive power as anybody, and holding them to under 85 is a really good sign.
I agree with you. Ibaka was absolutely on fire that night, and Fred VanVleet also had a great game with Pascal Siakam and Kyle Lowry as well. Fred VanVleet had a 6 and 7 point game, and 3 rebounds with not a lot of turnovers, which is respectable. He had 0 turnovers and 7 assists. Hats off to him. But, James Harden had a great match as well. He had a double-double. Yeah. Even though he had quite a lot of turnovers, 4 turnovers. And the Raptors played, none of them had 4 turnovers. But, but overall, great game by the Raptors. Great game to begin with. I actually like how the league has scheduled, harder teams against the Raptors. Yeah. Because I feel like if you're going to have these scrimmage games, it's better to have, good opponents, not opponents like the Nets or the Spurs where, a little bit their players are a bit injured. They're not really expecting much going in, rather having teams that are going to go in fighting.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, this is the quote unquote preseason, so obviously Houston's not going to play their best, but still, I'm happy with how they played, how Raptors played.
And same with the Blazers game. Serge Ibaka and Pascal Siakam again had absolutely great games. They were on fire that day. So were the other players as well. Matt Thomas had 16 points. Off the bench. So, hats off to him.
Matt Thomas nailed 4 threes, which was really good sign. As did Terrence Davis, so they look great from beyond the arc.
Yeah, and Terrence Davis and Matt Thomas, both rookies.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to help us. I mean, if we have 3-point shooters coming off the bench, in the playoffs, that's going to help a lot.
Yeah, I agree with you. The boys were just on point that night, And I feel like everything just went well for the Raptors, considering, let's not forget, the Portland Trailblazers are a hard team to verse. I wouldn't bet my money against the Portland Trailblazers, anytime soon. Yeah. But, against Phoenix, it was a bit harder, Phoenix was just on their game. I watched the highlights. I watched the actual game. And, Ricky Rubio was surprisingly hitting his shots. I've never seen Ricky Rubio hit this many 3, and I don't know. He hit 67% of his 3. 2 out of 3 threes he hit, it went in. And I just didn't expect that from him. But yeah, Cam Johnson was also playing great. That he made 4-pointers himself. So did Mikael Bridges.
Yeah, Mikael Bridges was really on his game. He missed 3 shots in total, which was amazing. He made 14, and I guess it's bound to happen. It's still the preseason, so you can't win them all. But, overall, not a bad performance. Again, Siakam played well, I guess. Ibaka had a little bit of a drop off, but still,
Still, he averaged close to a double-double.
yeah,
I'll give it.
And it's a preseason again, so
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Norman Powell had a good game. OG Anunoby's been playing great defensively throughout this whole 3-game scrimmages. But I want to go back to Phoenix a bit. I don't think, like, watching the game, you could just see how important Devin Booker is to their team.
Yeah.
And, like, every play, like, I'm looking at most of the threes, like, there were around how many players? I think 3 of their players made 4 3-pointers. And that was Mikael Bridges, Cameron Johnson, and Devin Booker. And a lot of them the opportunities were made by Devin Booker. And you can see those in his 7 assists. And he made good passes. I know he had 4 turnovers, but he was going in, making sure he catches our defenders with his dribbling, his skill moves, and then passes out to the open man like Mikael Bridges, who made 80% of his threes.
Yeah.
So next up, we're just going to go over a bit of what happened in the scrimmages. So the first game was the Orlando Magic against the Nets. Watching the game right off the bat, we saw Joakim Noah make his debut for the Clippers. And not going to lie, from what it looked like, he fit right in. I didn't expect him to be this good right off the bat, but he seems to he's found his role within that team. He had 4 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists with 0 turnovers in 15 minutes of game time. And, Joakim Noah is kind of one of those players that finds his place in the roster. He might not average a lot of points, but he gets the job done in the little holes and gaps in your team. And not going to lie, I think it's a great addition to the Clippers.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this Clipper team has a ton of depth, and, adding another big man like Joakim Noah, who a lot of experience, is going to benefit them a lot. And as you said, he looked solid. He looked very solid. Yeah. In the first game. So it's a good sign for the Clippers.
Yeah, and, right after that, the next game was the Nuggets versus, I forgot what team, but whatever team it was, they were getting annihilated by the Nuggets. So let me check.
Nuggets Wizards.
Yeah, the Nuggets Bol just went off. And not going to lie, both of us were on the Bol hype. I remember we were big Bol fans.
Oh, yeah.
And we remember when Bol was not drafted. He was drafted, but he was on there till the 44th pick.
Yeah.
We both waited, being like, "Yo, we want Bol to get picked," and now he got picked, and he had an absolutely great night. I don't know what to say. And this is without mentioning the big man lineup the Nuggets had. I was looking at that
Jokic
lineup.
Playing Jokic at point.
I think he's the tallest player to ever play at point guard.
Oh, I bet that.
I think this was the tallest lineup.
I wouldn't be surprised ever. But
yeah,
as you were saying, we've been on the Bol hype train for quite a while now, and to see him, play and do well, it's nice. It's good. And if if this translates to the regular season, this could be a huge plus for the Nuggets.
But I agree with you, Kiran, but I just don't want people to get too hyped by Bol. One reason why he played so well, because there was no pressure.
Yeah.
He was playing his game. And, let's not forget, these are scrimmages, it's just an idea. But, I would like to see Bol averaging 16 points per game and, averaging double-doubles and getting, 3 blocks per game. But we need to understand there are so many players in this lineup that are ahead of him.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? That these guys are going to play in the actual games that matter. You see, Bol is playing 36 minutes per game in all 3 of the games. This doesn't mean they're going to play Bol 36 minutes per game in the actual games.
You have to keep in mind that Gary Harris, Jamal Murray, and Monte Morris, they all didn't play at all in the first Nuggets game. So, I mean, Bol, as you said, if Bol gets minutes, he played 30 minutes, so he's going to score some points. And
he sort of averaged the same numbers with 20 minutes of game time in the last game. But you need to understand, when you look at the numbers of who's playing, all of the players, unless it was a close game, all of the players in the main starting lineup, the first 10 men, were all getting around 20 minutes of playing time.
Yeah.
So we need to understand that, on an usual basis, Bol isn't going to play 36 minutes per game.
Yeah, that's not happening.
But it was a great storyline for every NBA fan to just watch Bobo do that. And honestly, it was entertaining. It was entertaining just watching a big, lengthy man just block the shit out of everything.
Yeah, and playing Jokic at point guard, I mean, it was interesting, and obviously you can experiment during these preseason games, but it was very, very entertaining, and we wish Bobo nothing but the best.
Yes, same here. All the love to Bobo from the Court podcast.
Yep.
The next big news that was going on was that Grizzlies, the young Grizzlies, taking revenge on Iguodala. You remember Kiran when Dylan Brooks wrote that statement saying, I'm pissed off at Iggy. He doesn't want to play with us because he thinks we're not going to go anywhere. We're young.
Yeah.
But they're going to the playoffs right now from the looks of it.
Yep.
And they beat the Heat.
Oh,
all of them went off. All of them went off.
Yeah, I mean that's great to see. Iguodala, he bailed on them, and and Dylan Brooks, as you said, he got his revenge by dropping, leading the team in scoring, dropping 23 points, and Raptors legend Jonas Valanciunas, he played solid as well. As did Kyle Anderson,
15 and 15.
But the big guy, and the Memphis Grizzlies franchise player John Morant is getting all the attention, and he played very well.
He got a double-double with one turnover. You got to give it to him. And,
he's my
Brandon
rookie of the
Clark
year.
also had my rookie of the year, too. I love Zion. He needed more games to prove himself, to say he's rookie of the year. But, yeah, Brandon Clark also had a great game. And I'm looking at their bench, and their bench had solid numbers, too. They, maybe one of their guys like Josh Jackson got 0 points, but he gave them the assists. He got them the rebounds. Tyrus Jones, backup point guard, he got 10 points, 3 assists. On a night where John Morant is averaging a double-double, they gave no breaks to the Miami Heat. And honestly, hats off to the Grizzlies. They really took their revenge on Iggy. But I don't know if they're gonna verse the Heat again. But if they are, I really want to see them go off in that game.
Yeah,
that's when the game matters. And I think you agree with this as well.
Oh, I totally agree. And not to mention, Iguodala had 2 points. But something I wanted... Yeah, so 2 points in 23 minutes is not too hot. But something I wanted...
How many turnovers?
I believe Iguodala had 1 or 2, but he had 2. Another problem, I guess, for Miami, which they, I guess, should be keeping an eye on, is Tyler Hero's 3-point shooting. And for their first few games, he hasn't been that great from beyond the arc.
Don't worry. I just think he needs to get back into his groove. And, in my opinion, Tyler Hero is a great player.
I do too. I agree.
The Charlotte Hornets are going to regret picking his teammate from Kentucky, P.J. Washington, over him. Not that P.J. Washington isn't a great player, but Tyler Hero is just a different sort of player.
Yeah.
And, and honestly, in my opinion, at the very minimum, if he does not get injured, he's going to be something like a Kyle Korver. And that's not a bad thing. Kyle Korver is a great player. You know what I'm saying? Game-changing player. And that says a lot. And Tyler Hero has the potential to be more. He could be sort of a more athletic Gordon Hayward. But we can get into talking about Tyler Hero another day. So before we end off the podcast today, we have also another new show besides Raptors Update. It's called Overrated, Underrated, where, whether it's a player, coach, team, even a doctor of a team, we'll talk about it. We'll say whether we think they're overrated, underrated, or, fairly rated. So, yeah. So we're going to go one by one, Kiran. I say one, you say one. Say our opinion on it.
Sounds good.
So, Kiran, what are your thoughts on Mikael Bridges? Overrated or underrated?
So, obviously, with the 2 players named Bridges in the draft class, Mikael Bridges, with also the first name with an M, Mikael Bridges is a lesser known to Miles, but he's shown, obviously we saw it firsthand last night what he did to the Raptors. He's shown that he can be a very solid player, so I think that he's underrated. And, obviously he's not the Suns, number 1 guy. Devin Booker is their franchise player, but Mikael Bridges can be a very, very solid role player, and he's underrated. And, when if the time comes that the Suns are going to make that jump and become a playoff contender, then Bridges is going to become more well known. But he's underrated to me.
I disagree. Actually, I
Okay.
think he's overrated. He's underrated on a usual basis. But during this time, during the scrimmages, you see basketball Instagram accounts and social media and Twitter being like, Mikael Bridges had 25 points.
Cough, cough,
And go
Bleacher
on.
Report. Bleacher
Yeah.
Report.
Yeah, Bleacher Report is really anti-Canada and anti-Toronto Raptors, but we'll get into that later.
Oh, yeah.
But
Oh, yeah. Also, shout out on a side note, Kendrick Perkins, who defends the Raptors on a regular basis. I mean, yesterday on First Take, he was really hyping us up. While
and he's a man. He's a former Boston Celtics player, and he's standing up for Pascal Siakam and saying, "I'll take Pascal Siakam over Jason Tatum."
Yep.
Like, dude, this is the thing. Players be hating on Kendrick, but you need to understand, Kendrick just says what's the truth. He doesn't care, and we gotta respect that.
Whether he's beefing with Kevin Durant or whatever, he's spinning facts. And
Yeah, and in my opinion, he's not spitting his opinion. Because, you know what I'm saying? If it was his opinion, he would have the biased tendency of choosing, the Celtics. And he's done that before where he's like, it might be because I'm a bit biased, but I'm going to go with the Celtics.
Yeah.
Don't be scared of the Raptors because they're going to be the team. And just mad respects them,
Yeah.
And ESPN needs to find more guys like him. I love Jay Will and Jalen Rose and Jacoby and all of them and Stephen A. But, like, if they're going to talk like that, I'd rather have some people that actually know what they're talking about.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So, and also speaking of Jason Tatum, he is the player that I am first going to mention to you. So, is Jason Tatum to you overrated or underrated?
That's a good one. I'm glad you didn't tell me which ones you're going to do. That's a good one. He's fairly rated, but he's becoming overrated. He's becoming overrated.
Exactly.
Slowly becoming overrated.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I was on the Jason Tatum hype after the dunk against LeBron. I just did not see that come. I knew he was going to be a fairly good player. I knew he had all-star potential before the drafts were happening. But after the Celtics making the conference finals, I was like looking at him like, yo, they took LeBron to a Game 7. And this is like the best LeBron I've seen. You know what I'm saying? Not 12-13 LeBron. This LeBron is the best LeBron.
Yeah.
And
yeah. I totally agree. Jason Tatum, he's taken a step up this season from a fairly underwhelming season last year. And he's obviously a very solid player. And, but Boston Celtic fans, they're really overrating him and, calling him a superstar when he's not that already. And
not only Celtics fans, like other
People in
team
general.
fans as well. People in general, because they want the next superstar, who's going to be the next Kobe and stuff like that. And they hear that he trained with Kobe.
Yeah.
They want to
Tatum is not that.
say he's going to be that.
He's not that yet.
He's not that yet. He can be that. He can be that.
He can
but
be that.
They've seen, like, maybe a stretch of games where he played like that. And they're just like, he's going to be like that forever.
Yeah.
If he performs like a whole season like that, call me and I'll say he's not underrated. Oh, he's not overrated. It's like Luka's been performing like this the whole season.
Yeah.
But we don't talk about, hey, is Luka's the next superstar? Like, we hear that here and there. But people are picking Zion, who's averaging like 7 less points, and being like, he's going to be the one. Well, take the safe pick.
Yep. And, obviously Luka's been performing much better than Jason Tatum. And
Oh, yeah, yes.
on another
Big
note,
jump.
huge jump for Luka.
Both Luka and Trey. Like, I'm not a big Trey fan, but Trey went off.
No,
I was looking at the stats. First season to second season, I think there was maybe an increase of 1 minute per game. The man averaged 7 more points and was averaging double-doubles.
Almost. Like the whole Luka trade, it's safe to say it's worked out for both teams. They've been very good for, Atlanta and Dallas. And yeah.
I could not see Luka working out in Atlanta. It's like, look, this is the thing with every player that gets drafted. They got to be in the right situation.
Yeah.
So the next player I got is Hassan Whiteside, Kiran. Overrated, underrated.
So this is the interesting one. So obviously, when he was traded, Heat fans were thrilled because they all hate him. But, in Portland, I think he's been pretty solid. And he's underrated because he has his advanced stats, the advanced stats love him. Get this, he has the 9th rated PER in the entire league. So that's telling. It's very telling. You know, he's second in the league in
You're
rebounds
wild.
per game, but 9th in the league in PER. I mean, that's very high. So I mean, I think I'm gonna say he's underrated because he's not getting that much attention, and he's been pretty good at Portland. So yeah, underrated.
You're whack and so are advanced stats. I'm sorry, Kieran.
Hey, no,
advanced
I know.
stats are.
The whole advanced stats, you know, it's just this is just one example. I mean, he's top 10 in the league. That's very, you know,
He's a great
surprising.
defensive player stats wise. In my opinion, he's stats padding. He's like padding his stats. And like this is the thing, you know. Before I used to be the same. I didn't watch a lot of Hassan Whiteside.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I saw a few highlights here and there. But you know, I was asking myself, I'm like, Hassan Whiteside and Rudy Gobert are like averaging the same numbers. Maybe Rudy is a bit better offensively as well and defensively. But you know, why hasn't Hassan Whiteside been, you know, defensive player of the year? And I go do my research. I actually watch a few of the games. I watch some analysis videos and I'm looking. I'm like, this man is just like, he's not on game. He's not on point every day. You're looking at Rudy Gobert, and like all jokes aside, all Corona jokes aside, he was an all-star. And he was an all-NBA
and he's
team.
one of the best defensive players in the league.
Yeah, and 3-time defensive player of the year, and you see it. Like he's got like he's covering two mans at the same time.
Yeah.
Hassan Whiteside is barely covering one man. He's just kind of like hovering around the paint, seeing who's going in. Rudy Gobert is guarding the ball handler, the paint, and the guy who's open on the left side. That Hassan Whiteside is overrated. You know, like right now, like I'll be honest, he's fairly rated because everyone, like the professionals, know that he's like kind of like stat padding. Like he does what you need him to do in some sense, some games, but not every game. But in my opinion, overrated.
All right, and the next player for you is Zach Levine. So,
Underrated.
all right.
Underrated.
Yeah, I agree.
Underrated by so far.
Yeah.
I love Zach Levine. I love his gameplay. In terms of like, in terms of not flair or like game style, but in terms of what he can do, he's sort of like another version of like Kobe and MJ. I'm not saying he is the same player, but in terms of like what he can do, he can dunk athletically, he can score inside, he can score mid-range, he can score outside. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying he's consistent, but he's raw like that, and he can do all of those stuff.
Yeah,
And yeah,
you know, he's been the bright side or bright spark of a disappointing Bulls team these last few years.
Yeah.
But he's very good offensively, and obviously we all know about his dunks, but he's a very solid player.
And honestly, Kiran, like the only reason, like, dude, trust me, Zach Levine is doing these points, he's averaging these stats, he's playing like this in teams that are not in the best situation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Imagine him if he was in the perfect situation.
Exactly. And I mean, it is kind of looking like, the Bulls are gonna, I mean, it's not just not a clear answer yet, but it's looking like the Bulls are gonna win the trade because they got a legit, franchise player in Zach Levine, and yeah.
They had Jimmy Butler for one season. Honestly, Zach Levine was in the shadow of Wiggins in a way and Karl Anthony Towns, but he was still averaging around 18, 19 points.
Yeah.
I don't know what's... Sometimes I question why the league is like this, but Zach Levine, people need to get on him. Like, and honestly, this year aside, I wish he was an all-star, but it was mostly because, it was in Chicago.
Yeah.
But not gonna... He deserves to be an all-star. Like, in my eyes, I see him as an all-star caliber player.
Oh, yeah,
and
for
that's
sure.
the minimum. Like, I'm just imagining if we had, let's say, Zach Levine right now over DeMar DeRozan at the time. This is a hard take here, but I believe Zach Levine is better than DeMar DeRozan.
Hey, I mean,
Like, he can
yeah.
do more. He can do more. He can do more. That's why. DeMar DeRozan, skill-wise, is better than Zach Levine. But talent-wise, and what Zach Levine can do is way more than what DeMar can do.
yeah, I agree.
That's it for today's show. Today was a bit of a longer show, but we hope you listen. We talked about a lot of topics. I didn't think that we could get this much out of 3 scrimmage games, but overall, great show and great convo, Kiran. I enjoyed it,
I enjoyed it too.
and I hope our fans enjoyed.
Can't wait for the game starting tomorrow.
Oh yes, tomorrow Clippers, Lakers, Pelicans against the Utah Jazz. And the Raptors are playing against the Lakers at 8 p.m. Eastern Time and 5 p.m. Pacific on Saturday, August 1st.
All right, first big game. But yeah, great episode. I had fun.
Great episode. Great talk, Kiran. Again, thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, follow, share. Do whatever you can. We got hard first take authentic talks and authentic content.
Yeah.
And again, thank you for listening. I'm Pouyan Shirzadi.
And I'm Kiran Kilambi.
And we hope you have a great day.